As the CNN News 18 exclusive, the Indian government weighing options. Top Govt India Sources say government upset over continuing attack on Indian missions, especially in UK. Despite advance alerts, no police team was sent to the embassy to control the goons. This was in Australia. We presume the government deliberating options of removing the special security status to the missions because they are already in safe zone. In New Delhi, special treatment is given to UK embassy like road diverter and rumble strip to slow traffic. Alright, these are the details that we're getting, and going across to my colleague Anand Narasimhan, who brings us this latest piece of information. Very good morning to you, Anand. India very closely monitoring the actions of the other governments, and now displeasure coming through.
Yes, it is, because if you look at the national capital, there is a lot of security or special security that is given to a lot of the missions where this kind of ruckus is happening, attacks against the Indian government.
We'll try to re-establish that connection with my colleague Anand. But what the government is upset over is the continuing attack on the Indian missions, especially in the UK. We saw the kind of tensions that were created in Canada as well. And despite advance alerts, the concern is that no police team is being sent to the embassies to control the goons. And the government is deliberating options of removing special security status to the missions because they're already in the safe zone. I believe we've re-established that connection with Anand Narasimhan, our managing editor. Yes, Anand, go ahead.
Well, morning, Shilpa, and morning to our viewers. Now, this is something which top government sources are telling CNN News 18 that they're very upset with the kind of lackadaisical treatment that the Indian missions are getting in nations which are getting special security in a safe zone in Delhi. Now, missions, diplomatic missions like the US, the UK, Australia and Canadian consulates get special security. There is road cordoning that is happening, and there is always a deployment of the local police at the ready to ensure and secure the perimeter. But in this case, these are not happening in these nations. And India is also very keenly looking at, if you're not going to give us special security and provide our consuls and consulates special security, then and ensure that they come to no harm and they are not vandalized like this and they don't get free access to these vandals, then we will also withdraw this special security because this is already in a safe zone. So we are not going to try and unnecessarily extend you special treatment if you are going to leave our people vulnerable and our consulates vulnerable on your soil. The other aspect which is interesting is that the information says that there were advance alerts that were sent. Advance alerts were sent by the consuls to the local police saying that there is trouble, this can happen, we need cover and we need security. But their response was lackadaisical, and this is across the board. Interestingly, we are given to understand that with respects to protests in front of some of the other consulates in the UK, in London, the mayor of London had denied permissions. But in this case, with the Khalistani groups and the Indian consulate, the permission was, the go-ahead was given. But despite that, there was no adequate security that was provided. And the roads were left open, the people were allowed to congregate, and there was no security. There were hardly just one or two security personnel who also sustained injuries. There are a lot of details that are now coming to the fore. We'd like to share that with our viewers once they're verified. But clearly, the Indian government is not very, very happy with this lackadaisical treatment time and again. Now, in Australia also, these attacks have been happening since January. And there hasn't been much headway despite assurances coming in from the top level of the government. Now, if there is this kind of an attitude, then India will act in its way. They have already made polite requests. But now what India will do is very clearly reduce the special security permissions to these consulates and say, you take care of yourselves. And they will openly allow protests, and which have earlier been denied, and cordoning of roads and marking of roads will also cease. So clearly, India is saying if you respect is a two-way street. Now, if you cannot respect us and if you cannot protect us, then security will also be a two-way street. If you cannot extend the same courtesy to us, we will not extend the same courtesy to your missions here on Indian soil.
Well, Anand, also India was hugely dismayed when in Canada, an Indian journalist was heckled and the police were just mute spectators. That was an extremely bizarre incident, and as you're pointing out, in line with the kind of inadequate response that we've seen in the UK or in Australia as well.
Yes, diplomatic missions have been targeted even in the US, in San Francisco. Despite John Kirby coming out and condemning the incident, what was done to prevent it? What was the local police doing? Even in Surrey in Canada, the Surrey Metropolitan Police actually escorted the media journalists, the radio journalists out and said, we cannot guarantee you your safety. Now, what did they do to stop the protesters? Why didn't they facilitate the meeting of the Indian High Consul? Why the Indian High Commissioner? Would they have done the same thing? The simple question is, had it been the US envoy, would they have allowed the same thing, or would have the treatment be different? Had it been a British envoy, would the treatment have been the same, or would it have been different? Had it been the Australian envoy in Canada, what would we have the perception? Now, if that is the case, if you cannot respect India and India does not get the same kind of treatment, then you will not get the same treatment on our soil. It will be the same. You behave with us and you respect us, we respect you. No more red carpet welcomes for you if there is not going to be security provided and respect given to our consuls and our missions abroad. I think that's a very clear position and a fair position that the government is taking. That's what we're given to understand now. Whether or not the MEA takes these steps, we'll have to wait and watch. And whether or not the Home Ministry decides to take certain steps to say that, no, it's not just talk and it'll be action, we'll have to wait and watch.
Absolutely.